to perfect. Okay. All right, thanks. I'm really glad the first slide is up there because sometimes when I go to the YouTube videos, we usually see like my face going, laughing or some weird thing. So this time we'll start with a really nice slide and beautiful hex sticker. All right, well, let's get started. And this is done, I think, in the webinar format. So welcome, everybody. As usual, if you have questions, you could put them in the Q&A. I think that's what we have, right? Yeah,
We have
Q&A.
both the Q&A and chat, but Q&A is probably easiest for questions.
Perfect, thank you. And we will interrupt the speakers if that's okay with them, if it makes sense to do that, and ask the questions. I think we will have time at the end for a discussion. And if it makes more sense for you to ask your question like verbally, I think you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. So with that, I guess I'll just welcome everybody to the January R Govys. I'm super, super happy to have Jasmine Daly and Benny, and I can't remember his last name. Anyway, here today to give us a talk on an effort that they've been leading called the CRAN Cookbook. So we'll learn all about it. And thanks to Gwen from the Interagency R Users Group, who I think she's on the steering committee for the efforts, and she's the one who kind of made a connection for us. So we're really grateful to her also. And as always, we let the speakers introduce themselves. So we'll hear more about Jasmine and Benny from them. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone on to you, Jasmine, and I'll just let you and Benny take it away.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Wendy. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, super grateful and excited for the invitation to come present on the CRAN Cookbook. It's definitely like a labor of love and has been a really interesting project to work and collaborate on for the betterment of our community, which has been really fantastic. I will go to the next slide and then a little intro about me, and then I'll hand that off to Benny. I'm Jasmine Daly. I am a data science consultant. My company is called Daily Analytics, super easy name. And so I'm really focused on creating really user-friendly, robust, and enduring data science tools aimed at nonprofits, small companies, and startups. And so I take a lot of pride in building and working in with the R language and Shiny, and really trying to get a really great understanding of how to help folks across the technical spectrum to really build and empower them to work with data. I'll let Benny introduce himself.
Yeah, my name is Benny. Altman is my last name, which literally translates to old man. I'm a student in Vienna, in Austria. Currently doing my master's in evolutionary biology, but I did my bachelor's in statistics. I've been part of the CRAN team for over 2 years now, doing new submissions, manually checking them, and then in the end publishing them to the service. And that's how I became part of the team, because of my expertise with CRAN packages, essentially.
And super shout out to Heather, Gwen, and Bettina for being a great sounding board as part of the steering committee. And we had some wonderfully delightful conversations to really help push the cookbook forward. So it's a great team assembled. Started a little bit about the background of the project. From the perspective of the CRAN team, the volunteers, they often see a lot of the same issues in submissions and then resubmissions. Very often, the technique to fix it is documented in the writing R extensions, which is an online resource available, or the CRAN repository policy. I personally have 2 packages on CRAN. I never knew that these things existed. So super important. There are resources available. Sometimes they're difficult to find or to interpret, but there are things out there to help. So when folks have these sort of reoccurring issues, if you've never submitted a package before, it is a lot of emailing back and forth, you spending time as the maintainer, trying to figure it out, trying to satisfy the volunteer. Perhaps you get some explicit feedback or a link to maybe a solution, but often that just creates a long lead time to having your package published on CRAN. And sometimes it's also just like not a nice feeling to have to keep going back and forth. And so that sometimes also puts folks that are new to submitting packages in our community slightly in a tough spot of trying to navigate, the email correspondence, trying to figure out this technical issue with their package, and sort of creates a barrier for entry because word gets along fast about people's experiences with CRAN. And I'll definitely highlight that a bit due to the fact that we ran a community-wide survey to really sort of ground ourselves in what people's experiences were. So all that is to say, creating the CRAN cookbook for these common CRAN issues and highlighting them and making them available, we hope that is going to lead to a simpler submission process and help really empower and motivate folks to continue contributing to open source because everybody really benefits, and creating this sort of documentation is really sort of the first step in sort of introducing these techniques and the framework to sort of debug and find solutions to those problems. So.
Now I will tell you a bit more about CRAN. I guess most of you know what CRAN is. CRAN is the software repository, the official software repository of R. It's, for me, fairly old. It's older than myself. It's about 25 years old, I think, and I'm only 23. It was founded by Kurt Warnick. Some of you might know him. He's also Austrian, also in Vienna. That's one of the reasons why the main server of CRAN is located in Vienna. And it's a network of several mirrors, which mirror the current R code, base R code, and the packages. Yeah, there was a really nice talk of Kurt this year at USR 2024, but sadly there is no recording. At least I couldn't find one online. But there are his slides, and I really recommend looking at them because it gives a nice overview of the history of CRAN, some issues with CRAN maybe, and also some nice stats on how many packages are on CRAN, how many emails we've sent, how many packages we archived, and everything like that. Yeah, right now the CRAN team is volunteer-based and 2 student assistants, one of them is me. All in all, we are 7 members on the CRAN team, but only 3 of us work on the new submissions. So every new R package that is submitted is only processed by 3 people, which is also quite a nice fun fact, I think. CRAN tries to be backwards compatible, meaning that if a package is updated and breaks a package which depends on that update, it must be notified, like the maintainer of the old package must be notified, which requires active maintenance, which on the one hand is easier to use, but then again, it's more work for maintainers and us as CRAN team. I guess some of you do know the CRAN project webpage. It's where you submit your packages and where you download R from. If you want, I can show you the web form later. I guess it makes sense when I show the cookbook to just show the web form. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Jasmine. Perfect. I'm going to tell you a bit about the workflow of CRAN, essentially what happens with packages that are submitted. First, they are submitted via the web form, or essentially the tarball is submitted via the web form. And the maintainer email address is confirmed. This happens on the maintainer side, nothing to do with us. Then the package gets onto the CRAN server, onto the pre-test folder of the CRAN server. And there is a submission email sent, which essentially just notifies us and the maintainer, hey, there's a new package with this description, it's about this, and it was submitted on this day. Packages in the pretest folder are automatically tested. So CRAN regularly tests their packages, and we also check every new package. When this check is complete, which normally takes, I'd say, half an hour, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more, depending on the amount of packages that are tested at the same time. The test results are also sent via email, which is a bit annoying because we get a lot of emails, because 2 for each submission. And the pretest email shows the result of the tests, and is also sent both to the maintainers and to the CRAN team. Then there is a split with the packages, the new submissions. Some of them go to the archive, which is just essentially they are rejected because a test didn't work or something was wrong with the package. And if everything was correct in the incoming checks, then it goes to the newbie folder, and this is where I am. So I sit at the newbie folder, and every package that comes to the newbies will be manually inspected by one of us. And then also, depending on the manual inspection, we again move the package around. Either we send it to archive because there was something wrong, then we send an email to the maintainer telling them what was wrong, what they should do to fix it, now with links to the cookbook as well. And we send the package to the archive. Or the package is sent to publish. This means that within a few hours, maybe a day, the package will be available on CRAN, both the source and the binaries, and will be able to be installed via install packages, the command. There are some other folders, but they are mostly relevant for resubmissions. If packages that were already on CRAN but got removed want to be resubmitted and re-uploaded to CRAN. Okay. And this is also, you can continue, Jasmine. Thank you. This is also how we came up with the issues, because I check 50% of the packages, let's say. I know which issues happen regularly. And it was essentially just a feel which issues should be part of the cookbook and which shouldn't. What I mostly check for is documentation and quality of life for users. It's what I call it all the time. It's like, does your package print unsuppressible messages onto the console, which is maybe not that bad of an issue, but if you run a function in a for loop and for every loop there is a message which cannot be suppressed on the console, is just getting a bit annoying. Yeah, so most of these issues we have in the cookbook, our recipes as we call them, are part of the newbie checks I conduct. We only have a limited amount on the automatic tests because packages which don't pass the automatic tests don't even make it to me. So that's where we are hoping I'll help the community, that they identify issues that come up very often. But also I will, from time to time, if there are new things coming up we test for, I will probably add also a recipe. So only last week I added a new issue because for a few days now we also check for dependencies on our version 4.1 if the pipe is used, the native pipe, which was only introduced in 4.1. So if you use the native pipe within your package, you need a dependency on R4.1, which is now tested. Okay, you can continue. Great. Okay. How are these recipes styled? They all should have the same structure. They all should have a title, which just gives a short summary. What is the problem? Then the problem with a short paragraph, a few sentences. What is the problem? And the next part is the solution, how to solve this. Also just a few sentences, and then details. I will show you an example afterwards with a bit more details on what the problem is, how to avoid it, why it's a problem in the first place, and stuff like this. We try to write our recipes simple and concise, just to not have another writing our extensions document with a long text, and nobody wants to read this. And we try to use colon boxes for helpful tips. I can show you an example later as well. What we also did in all our recipes, there is the actual CRAN communication template included, because if we see the same issue, we write the same email, essentially. So there is always the error code or the CRAN review you get from us in an email from us, so that if for Google just the issue, they find the recipe. That's the plan, at least. Okay, I think it's time to go for a look at the cookbook. I think it's easier if I share the screen, or do you want to share the screen, Jasmine?
I think you can
Okay.
Share.
And I think I have to get permission from you because you're already sharing the screen. I think.
Stop sharing.
There we go. Let's see. Perfect. Yes. So, yay, this is our cookbook. Now you can finally see the cookbook. So this is the welcome page. It's just a short description on what we did. Again, the hex sticker, what I love. It has a dark mode, very important for me. Okay, so we clustered the issues in 4 categories. We have the general issue section, manual and documentation issues, code issues, and description file issues. I think I'll just go through the code issues because they are the most. Okay, so this is how one of these clusters looks. And we do have the recipes one after the other. You can see them here. So the first one, for example, is using T or F instead of true and false. This is the problem, what the issue is, a solution, and then a bit more details and examples. There's also the CRAN review communication. This is what you get in an email if you use T or F instead of true or false. Yeah, there are a few more examples. And then right down there, there's the next recipe, setting a specific seed. Each of these recipes has its own link. So you can link, for example, to the seed recipe, and they are also already used in our emails. So I added the links to all the recipes, I think 2 or 3 months ago. So if any of you have submitted a new package within this time, you probably got already a link to the CRAN cookbook. Yeah, so there are quite a few of them here. You can just scroll through them.
Benny, can I interrupt?
Sure. Please, Wendy.
Yeah, sorry. So if you
No
go back
worries.
to the code issue page thing, yeah. So on the right-hand side, that's like a little table of contents or something for what's in the code issues.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there an index or anything to the code book, or
An index per se does not exist, just these on this page on the right-hand side, but you can search. So for example, if you want to know more about the seed, you could search for seed and you're right at a specific seed
perfect, thank you.
issue. And you can also search for the CRAN communication. So for example, let's say I received an email with this. You can put it in CRAN and then you just add the correct setting a specific seed recipe. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Jasmine, is there something you want to add?
No, I think that was a really good overview. I think
Perfect.
we'll get into the call for contribution towards the end.
I think we'll get there at the end. Perfect. Then I'll stop sharing the screen. And you can take over.
Alrighty. So as part of this whole exercise in building out this cookbook and curating the issues, we also really wanted to take like a temperature check of the community. I feel like folks have seen on, different social media platforms, people complaining, specific calls out to, particular CRAN volunteers, but that's all like anecdotal information. Those are random times I've seen tweets or toots. And so we really wanted to get like a grounding in how the community was feeling and how we could help inform the cookbook based off of some of these results. And so I'll go through and I'll highlight sort of two points of data that I think are pretty interesting and pretty telling about folks that are developing packages. So I believe this was like our first question, and it was really to ask folks like, how would you rate your experience on a level of 1 to 5, 1 being not having a great time, 5 being it's fantastic. CRAN is amazing. There was honestly like a mixed bag. Like we have a lot of 4s and 5s, but this is, I think, not surprising in a way of seeing like this mixed view of CRAN given the types of different interactions folks are having. I know there are different ways that different volunteers interact with maintainers, and that's also been a spot of contention. But yeah, I think this really makes a lot of sense with folks interacting with CRAN. This one I found like particularly telling. I mentioned just before in this talk that I've got 2 packages on CRAN, and the 2 recommended resources for writing packages are the writing R extensions and the CRAN repository document online. And I didn't know they existed, and I felt like this chart on the left highlighted that a lot of other folks didn't as well. A significant amount of folks like have either they know it exists or it's just not helping. And sort of see that play between these 2 charts of like folks have read it, but they have had still a really difficult time developing packages. And that I think helps highlight a need for this type of documentation that is user-friendly, that's really digestible and compostable in forms that folks are easily able to adapt to their working style when they're building out packages. And so I thought this was really interesting, sort of getting this temperature check from the community of what resources are out there, how people are using them, and maybe how they're not working in a way. So this is our wonderful call to action. We really encourage community contributions. I absolutely love seeing the issues and the pull requests, even if it's minor. I think we had one pull request that was just getting at some grammar and some spelling. Please, you're more than welcomed to submit. Very often there's you can either submit via a GitHub issue, or we have a discussion board specifically aimed at folks trying to even get a sense of like, hey, is this an issue that makes sense to be on the cookbook? I think you'll see Benny and I on GitHub or somebody else within the community that has done contributions. Engage with somebody who's asking a question, and then really help to encourage y'all to submit pull requests with your issue, following our style guide and structure. And then Benny and I will merge it, and then everything is all wonderfully combined and rendered with the GitHub action. And so I think we really we will see the true benefit of this with a lot of community understanding and buy-in and contributions. And I think it's an ever-growing living resource. So please, if you're feeling very motivated, even write a discussion topic, we can help you figure it out as well.
So somebody maybe should offer to do an index.
That would be wonderful. Please pose it, like just engage us in discussion. We absolutely would love that. So yeah. So some things I wanted to highlight as well, in addition to like there are like CRAN suggested documents, the writing R extensions and the CRAN policy, to help fill in people's knowledge about how to write packages and contribute. But I also think there's some other sort of tips and tools that like I leverage myself when I'm doing package writing, and then just in general things that I've noticed that other folks find really helpful. So just to share, I think the big one is Hadley and Jenny's R package book. I think we also include it on the CRAN cookbook under additional resources. It's a wonderful book, very well thought out, and trying to get at some of the, I think some of the gotchas that you may not fully understand if you're, going at it from scratch. And so, very highly recommend the book. It is sitting on my bookcase over there. You can't see, but really wonderful book. I also think Posit has another doc site they'll have the link in here for writing our packages that is really well written and really comprehensive. And then along that side, there are sort of 3 packages that I think make a really good working environment for developing packages. Dev tools really allows you to easily like document after you've written your function, and if you got your Oxygen code up top, like really allows you to do all that automated documentation for those manual and help files. Use this, which is a package I literally forget about all the time, and I think it's so wonderful. It really allows you to help navigate and work around different file systems and really sort of helping to structure your package. And then also highlighting test that for building out unit tests, wonderfully helpful. And then in addition to that, like RCO's build features, which I think you really don't see the power of those until you're like in the package development state. But it's really well and methodical in terms of like testing and building and installing and then wiping your R session clean to have this fresh install. Gives you an insight about if you have after testing the package, if you have particular warnings or notes. Those are great, especially to fix those before you end up submitting to CRAN. And I think it's just a really wonderful little tab that I love when developing packages, and to be really mindful about kind of leveraging all those tools that are available. So I believe that is the end of the content for a talk. I would love to answer any questions. I'm sure Benny would love to answer any questions, thoughts, even if you want to spitball an idea for a potential issue, like we are open. Thank you very much for everybody for listening and attending. And I really hope to see some future contributors, future chefs of the cookbook. I think if you
Thank you so much, Jasmine and Benny. That was fantastic. I'm still working on a package sort of in my head, if you would, with a colleague. So it's a bit of a mystery to me how to write them, but I'm certainly going to learn, and I'm going to take advantage of your cookbook and all your excellent advice. So we do have some questions, and so one person asked, but I think maybe you mentioned Hadley's book. I guess it was Hadley's book on R packages, the 2nd edition. Yeah. And Stas says, is that a substitute for the writing R extensions? Maybe you should use both, right? I guess is what he's asking.
do you have any thoughts on that, Benny? I think I know from the cookbook side, we definitely like this cookbook is complementary. It's not meant to replace. So I don't know.
And just like Hadley's book is not meant to replace the extensions either. I suspect that documents like this and books they're just complementary to each other, that maybe one emphasizes something else. And okay, let's see, there was another question. Oh, I'm not sure what the spoiler is, but it says, can you give us a spoiler? What are the most common, wow, my eyes are bad, issue with the packages that gather data from the web? Oh, it's a good question.
I guess that's my question to answer, Jasmine. Depends. There are different types of packages that gather data. One of them are calls to API. There, probably the most common issue is that there is no link to the API. So it's just calls to API, uses API calls, and then there is no information on what API and what where to get it from. So then I would probably reject and say, hey, please, could you add a link to the API, or at least explain what the API is? And the other type of packages for gathering data are probably those that download data. And there the example structure is most often incorrect, because we have different wrappers where the examples should be wrapped in, depending on their length and what they do. And downloading should be in known test so that they are run by users, but not by the automatic tests on CRAN. And quite a lot of maintainers wrap it in don't run, which is the wrapper for not running an example entirely, which should only be used if there is missing information like API, passwords, usernames, stuff like this. So I would say that this is the most common issue. But I guess this is the most common issue overall, because I quite often see wrong wrappers and then examples, which are good examples, which could be used for testing the package and the code, but are just not tested because they are marked wrongly.
Yeah, APIs, I think, can be really useful, but they can also be, at least for me, confusing and sometimes changeable, but I guess that's kind of our world today. All right, next question. Is it pronounced Roxy oxygen or R oxygen?
Somebody help me, because I always say things wrong.
I also don't know. I always say Roxygen, but I don't know.
I remember
To be
taking
honest.
a class, and I remember Hadley calling it row oxygen, but he also, says tomato, so who knows?
Oh gosh, I won't tell you some of the things I've mispronounced. Let's see. I don't think I see any more questions. Or am I missing any?
There's one in the Q&A section, I think.
Oh, good. Okay. Go ahead. I guess you could read it, right, Benny?
What R book do you recommend for intermediate R users who wants to learn more on advanced packages, tidyverse, ggplot, etc.? Well, I guess this is more a question for you, Jasmine, because I have no idea about writing packages. I've not yet written a package. I don't maintain a package. I just look at packages.
But do you think you'd be like an expert R package writer, given what you know?
I suppose that a package I would write would pass the CRAN checks pretty easily, just because I know what to look for.
Now you have to
I
just do it,
guess.
test that theory out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should try this. I should write a package and then submit and try and see how often I fail.
Just to answer the question, so I've got on my bookcase, and I was like doing this to like just get a confirmation. So yes, the R packages book is excellent. I also have the R for data science book. That's another great resource, and that'll highlight a lot of the tidyverse and adjacent packages. For the person, you can also maybe, since you're anonymous, you can also ask anonymous as well. Are there any particular like packages you are like interested in, or is it just like in general the tidyverse? Because I think also, which is really great, I think package down has really enabled a lot of folks to add a lot more documentation and clarity in a really succinct format. So a lot of packages now I'm seeing have their own sort of associated, very clean website with all the collection of their vignettes, reference for each of the R functions. So yeah, if somebody had any particular questions about specific packages, like I do think going a little bit down and looking for somebody's package down version of their website would also be really helpful. For more.
Did you put package down in your slides?
I didn't.
Yeah,
When these slides go out, I will have package down in it.
Okay, good. I was trying to think of where I could write that down so I'd remember it.
Maybe we should also add the link to the cookbook. I think it's not in this. Oh, yeah, it is in the slides, right? In the section of it. Well, whatever. Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions, do you? But I have a couple questions. Hopefully I don't forget what they are, but
I see Richard has a question.
oh, go ahead.
Uh,
You want me to read it? Oh, hey, Richard. He's joining us from very far away, by the way. Let's see, I'll read it out loud. Not sure it can be answered by speakers, but is there a process that regularly checks that a package's dependencies still work? That's interesting because I've heard about people getting notified by I guess somebody at CRAN that says, oh, your package is going to be like essentially kicked out because of something, or you really need to maintain it, something like that. Anyway, to continue, that is, a dependent package has been updated and thus the package you use doesn't work. I do see when I run a package, sometimes I get an error that versioning is not working. So is there, so are maintainers responsible for like continually to check their packages?
Well, the idea on CRAN is like this, that maintainers should try to regularly update their packages. Maintainers have a working version for all dependencies on there. Sometimes there is a change in dependencies, like a package is changed, and then reverse dependency checks are triggered, and it's checked if it's still working, everything is fine. If you need to update your package, you are notified. I think you do have 2 weeks to update your package. Quite often, especially for maintainers with many packages, with many dependencies, they do already submit patches for the package. So if you're lucky, you get a patch from the maintainer of the package that updates. But then I think you have 2 weeks to update your package. And then I think there is another 2 weeks before it really gets kicked off CRAN. But if the dependencies don't work, then yes, the package gets kicked off. And they are checked regularly. So this is one of the things that's unique to CRAN. That's one of the basic ideas of the backward compatibility, which requires active maintaining. That's one of the downsides to this.
It's also one of the good things, right?
Yeah, also,
Yeah.
of course, it has ups and downs, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good, thanks. We have a question in the Q&A. Any specific advice for porting C packages to R?
From my side, always quite tricky because the test environments in CRAN are weird, but then again, I don't really know much about C. It's normally no problem, but it's recommended to use R as they are R packages, I'd say. But we do see quite often packages which have C code and are C dependent.
Okay, one of my questions, I think I don't know if it's an urban myth or what, but I have the sense that if we write a package that it's frowned upon for there to be many other packages that it uses, like dependencies, I guess. Is that true? I mean, maybe it's better, like good programming, not to depend on a lot of packages, but is there a policy or whatever like that for Korean?
Don't think there's an official policy, but if you do depend and import from a lot of packages, you will be asked if this is really necessary because of reverse dependencies and everything.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's an issue. I don't know the official numbers now, but yeah, it's not really frowned upon.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably good.
Avoid.
It's probably good programming practice not to, unless you really have to.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, great, thank you. We have one in the
As Stas said, it says throws a warning. Basically, are you sure you know what you're doing with dependencies? Yeah, and we also see the warning if you submit it. And then we'll ask, hey, are you really sure you know what you're doing? But then this is not my part, because this is most of the time Uwe who will answer this. And he's a bit, I think he's a bit more strict than I am.
Interesting.
But he's the father of CRAN, so he has the last word in everything.
Okay, who is that?
Uwe Ligges, he's also part of the core team.
Okay, it's not really a Q, but there's a statement in the Q&A about using C code. Okay, that's good. So if there was no other question in the Q&A, I'm going to ask my other question. Sorry. Recently, and maybe it was at our last R user group meeting, but there was talk about Python packages, and and I'm not a Python user, so I don't really know how all that works. But I think, isn't there something called like PyPy, or okay, so I think there's like an equivalent to CRAN for Python packages. And maybe it's Anaconda, maybe it's PyPy or something else. I don't know. But if that's true, do they have the same like vetting or review? I'm not sure that they do, because when this person was saying about this is how we publish the packages, it seemed like it was sort of like what you would have on GitHub. If I posted something to GitHub, I just post it up there. Nobody's telling me not to or checking it or anything. So I'll just throw that out there. Do you know of anything, like, how does this work with Python? I mean, I know it's CRAN and then Python, but what do you know?
I also don't use Python that often, but I think it's what you said. I think that they don't really test manually for that. It's as far as I know. And Will also said in the chat that PyPy and Conda are two of the biggest package repositories for Python. I guess I don't really use Python, but I don't think that the system is that elaborate and in-depth for Python, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, thank you. And the reason why I sort of think that's important is that in the government, or I mean, and for industry too, if we're trying to get open source software used more and accepted, then I think having some like processes and policies and reviews and things like we have with CRAN is a big like selling point or a positive thing about it. And so, of course, Python's used too in the government, but sometimes it seems, and I don't want to get into a thing of what's better, Python or R, but somehow Python seems to be more accepted for use. I'm going to say for use in like production, not just like developing things or R&D. So I find that a bit odd that at least in the R community, we have these mechanisms to review the code and the packages, where in Python we don't. So I'm just throwing that out there because it seems odd to me. I don't know if you have any comments about it, but I think we have some more questions. So I guess I won't say anything more about it. So we have a question in the Q&A. Do you have any recommendations for when users should consider using R Universe rather than CRAN? That's a good point, because I mentioned GitHub too, because we're trying to write a package, and we were thinking, oh, should we just post it on GitHub or should we go through CRAN? So anyway, so they said, or areas where CRAN could learn from R Universe's features or processes. I don't think I've actually been on R Universe, so I don't know. Jasmine, Benny, what are your thoughts?
I only
also
have.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no,
Please.
I have like very little thoughts. So I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I don't really know our universe, so I can just tell you the CRAN side. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Jasmine,
something
what do
for
you want
all
to
of
say?
us to jump into.
Yeah, no, I've been on it a couple times. I think it seems incredibly useful. I have not adopted it into my workflow at all yet. That's purely from trying not to be overwhelmed by all of the different things out there and the new tech that's always coming out every single day. But I think they're making really great strides. I think they're also working with our consortium.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's good to know. It's comforting.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. Anything else in the chat? Oh, I guess I sparked some good conversations about Python, which is good. I definitely need to become a little better informed about Python. Okay, any other questions or I have to say, I'm really just amazed to meet both of you, and especially Benny, because CRAN has been sort of like this faceless, uh entity, and
You are not the
it,
first person to tell me this. Jasmine told me the same, and at user, everybody was amazed to meet me. That I'm on the CRAN team.
yeah, you're like a celebrity.
Yeah.
And when I submit my package, could I say, would you send this to Benny or?
I mean, the chances is 50-50, I'd say. So it's a coin flip.
Yeah. All right. Did I miss any questions or anything in the chat? Donna, have you seen anything that I missed? You're
I
usually
don't
better at
think
track.
so. I think Richard just posted another comment, but I think it was a comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Cool.
yeah, it's been great though.
Yeah. Super, super interesting. And again, I absolutely love the hex sticker. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a sticker, but it's a hex.
It might be printed out shortly and offered for folks. That is on the
Nice.
to-do list.
All right. Maybe if I get to the joint stat meetings, I will get there. Oh, and I think Gwen said that the Use Our conference is going to be around that area too. So forgot about that. And around that same time. All right, so good things to look forward to.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Here's some virtual applause.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. Thank you again, Jasmine and Benny, for being here, and Gwen for putting this together, and Donna and the American Statistical Association for hosting us, and also co-sponsoring us with the R Consortium. And yep, we're on Meetup and other places, so if you want to join us, you can find us there, our Govys. All right, well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right,
See you next
bye.
month.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye.